The camera fades in slowly. Packed arena, flashing cameras, kids wearing number 22 jerseys in the crowd, commentators yelling over the roar of thousands of fans. And standing in the center of it all is one player who somehow became bigger than basketball itself, Caitlin Clark. But this story isn't just about points, assists, or logo threes anymore. It's about something much bigger, because over the last few months, something strange started happening. Major brands weren't just asking Caitlin Clark to appear in commercials. They were building entire cinematic experiences around her. These weren't normal athlete endorsements with generic smiles and predictable slogans. No, these ads felt different, emotional, dramatic, almost documentary-like. And fans everywhere started saying the same thing. These Caitlin Clark commercials are masterpieces. Today, we're breaking down the 6 brand new Caitlin Clark commercials that completely changed sports marketing, and why they feel more like Hollywood productions than advertisements. Because whether you love her or hate her, one thing is undeniable. Caitlin Clark has become the face of a new era. The first commercial opens in total silence. No music, no announcers, no flash edits. Just the sound of sneakers squeaking across an empty gym floor at 5 a.m. The camera slowly follows Caitlin walking alone into the gym. The lights aren't even fully on yet. She drops her bag near the bench, ties her shoes, and starts shooting from deep. Mississippi rebound. Shoot again. Mississippi. Again. Again. Then finally swish. And that's when the narrator says, "People love the highlights, but greatness lives in the repetitions nobody sees." Simple, chilling, effective. The commercial wasn't selling basketball shoes. It was selling obsession, discipline, sacrifice, and fans instantly connected with it because it showed something people rarely see: the lonely side of greatness. That ad exploded online because it didn't try too hard, felt real, and honestly, that became the formula for almost every Caitlin Clark commercial afterward. Brands realized they weren't marketing an athlete anymore. They were marketing a movement. The second commercial completely changed the tone. Instead of an empty gym, it opens with chaos. Sports radio hosts arguing, TV personalities debating, social media comments flying across the screen. "She's overrated. She changed women's basketball. She gets too much attention. She deserves even more." The noise gets louder and louder until suddenly, silence. The screen cuts to Caitlin sitting alone in a dark locker room staring straight into the camera. Then she says just 6 words. "Good. Keep talking. I'm still working." Goosebumps. That line instantly went viral. Not because it was loud, but because it was controlled, cold, focused, confident. The commercial understood something powerful about modern sports culture. Controversy creates attention, and Caitlin Clark has become one of the most talked about athletes on the planet. Every game becomes a debate. Every foul becomes a headline. Every performance becomes a national conversation. And instead of running away from that pressure, the commercial leaned directly into it. That's what made it brilliant. But the third commercial might have been the most emotional of them all. It starts with little girls practicing basketball in driveways across America. One girl in Iowa, another in Chicago, another in Los Angeles. All of them trying logo threes, most of them airballing badly, but they keep shooting. Then the commercial cuts to real clips of fans lining up for hours just to watch Caitlin play. A father lifting his daughter onto his shoulders. Young fans screaming her name. And finally the narrator says, "You can measure stats, but you can't measure inspiration." That line hit hard, because whether people admit it or not, Caitlin Clark changed visibility for women's basketball forever. Arena attendance exploded. Television ratings skyrocketed. Merchandise sold out everywhere. And suddenly young girls started believing they could become the main event too. That commercial wasn't about basketball. It was about impact. And that's why it resonated far beyond sports fans. Now here's where things became really interesting, because the fourth commercial didn't focus on Caitlin Clark the athlete. It focused on Caitlin Clark the celebrity. The ad opens with paparazzi flashes, fans chasing autographs, Phones recording her everywhere she goes. Restaurants, airports, team buses. The narrator says, "Fame sounds exciting until it follows you home." Then the commercial slows down. Caitlyn walks into a quiet apartment alone. No cameras. No crowd. Just silence. She sits on the couch exhausted. And for a few seconds, you almost forget she's a superstar. You just see a young woman carrying unbelievable pressure. That commercial shocked people because it humanized her in a way sports media rarely does. Most athlete ads show perfection. This one showed exhaustion, responsibility, isolation, and that vulnerability made the ad feel authentic. Fans didn't just see a basketball icon anymore. They saw a real person trying to survive overwhelming attention. But then came the fifth commercial, and this one felt like a movie trailer. Fast cuts, dramatic music, massive crowds. The commercial compares Caitlyn Clark to legendary sports moments throughout history. You see packed arenas, screaming commentators, historic shots, cultural moments. And then the narrator says, every generation gets one athlete who changes the conversation. Not a player, not a scorer. Conversation. That wording mattered, because Caitlyn Clark's rise became bigger than wins and losses. She forced people to pay attention to women's basketball in a way the sports world hadn't seen before. Suddenly, sports networks led with WNBA discussions. Former NBA players debated her games on national television. Celebrities sat courtside just to watch her play. And brands noticed something important. People weren't just watching Caitlyn Clark. They were emotionally invested in what she represented. That's why companies started pouring massive budgets into these cinematic commercials. Because they realized she wasn't simply popular. She was culturally important. And finally, the sixth commercial. The one many fans are already calling the best sports commercial of the year. It begins with critics predicting failure. She won't survive the physicality. She's overhyped. College success won't translate. One by one, the negative quotes appear on screen. Then suddenly the music stops. The screen goes black, and you hear only a basketball bouncing. Then the screen lights up with Caitlyn draining a deep three-pointer in slow motion. Crowd erupts, and the narrator says, they doubted her game. They underestimated her impact. Then comes the coldest final shot of the entire commercial. Caitlyn stares directly into the camera and says, I was never supposed to fit the mold. Fade to black. Logo appears. Internet explodes. Because that line perfectly captured why people are so fascinated by her in the first place. Caitlyn Clark doesn't feel manufactured. She doesn't fit the traditional image people expected. She shoots from impossible distances. She plays with swagger. She talks trash. She embraces pressure. And whether critics like it or not, she changed the energy around women's basketball forever. But here's the deeper reason these commercials work so well. They understand modern audiences. People today don't connect with perfect corporate athletes anymore. They connect with stories, conflict, pressure, emotion, authenticity. And Caitlyn Clark's career has all of it. The rise, the criticism, the expectations, the spotlight, the obsession from fans, the resentment from critics. It's dramatic, it's emotional, and honestly, it feels almost cinematic in real life. That's why these commercials don't feel like ads. They feel like chapters in an ongoing documentary. And brands know exactly what they're doing. Because every time Caitlyn Clark steps onto the floor, people feel like they're watching something historic unfold in real time. Maybe that pressure becomes too much someday. Maybe the expectations become impossible. Or maybe this is only the beginning of something even bigger. But right now, Caitlyn Clark sits at the center of one of the biggest cultural moments sports has seen in years. And these commercials captured that perfectly. Not just the basketball player, but the phenomenon. The camera fades out one final time. Crowds screaming. Kids wearing her jersey. Arena lights glowing. One final deep three splashing through the net. And the narrator quietly says, some athletes sell products. Others change the game forever. Fade to black.